Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Quantum Action Podcast. We're here to take you to infinity and beyond. And with me today, we have a special guest, Loral Langemeier from Nevada. And she's going to talk to us all about Making Your Kids Millionaires, which is her new book, which has just been released a few months ago. And we're going to talk about the economy and about how important it is to leave a legacy for your kids and how to teach your kids to sort of build on top of the wealth that you've already created. Loral, over to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be back, actually. As one of the only women, see that model of my King Air. I had that for 17 years. And I think few women own aircraft, but I can tell you I've only been since COVID, I've been without a plane for about 2 years. That is definitely going to happen in 2023. You can't live without a private plane. So, and my son was a pilot, and this came out in May. You can get it on Amazon anywhere around the world. If you do order it through the U.S., we give you tons of bonuses. You just go to makeyourkidsmillionaires.com. And really, Fabrizio, this was a culmination of my son's 23, my daughter's 16. And how I taught them step by step by step. Now, what's fun about the book is I'm just going to point this out. Kyle Beckman was my partner in this, and he was actually a 25-year Air Force fighter pilot and fighter pilot trainer. So he did his kids training, very different, right? From, married, 2 kids, very different household than a single mom traveling 2 kids around the world and doing what I did. Yeah. So what's in the stories is how he did it, how I did it. And really the message to all of you parents that are out there, or even if you know people with kids, is there's a complete checklist of what do you do between 0 and 5, 6 and 8, 9 and 11. Like, what do you do at all these ages? And if you're sitting out there listening and you're 40 and you don't have any kids, you should probably get the book and just go through the same checklist, because all the same stuff applies. It's just you started late. Yeah, exactly. So what challenges do you think people are having today with their children where attention spans are really, really, like 6 seconds compared to, kids 20 years ago? How do you get your kids to focus on doing these tasks and learning these things? You got to be. So the earlier you start, the better. And I can tell you, COVID has done a doozy on the mental health of children. It's shocking, the mental health state of children today. They're living on these lovely devices. Their entire identity is managed through social media and texting. And, somebody, especially a teenage girl, their whole day could be ruined by somebody, saying something like, "Oh, you're ugly today. What you wearing?" So nobody speaks face to face. They're losing what, in my mind, we wrote a lot about it in the book. They're losing decision-making, problem solving, and just negotiating skills. So one of the things, when you actually go straight to the makeyourkidsmillionaires.com, one of the gifts that I give you is a program I started with my kids when they were 3 and 4. And it's never pay your kids an allowance. So instead, you get them motivated by tasks. So if they want to make money, first of all, mom and dad, you're not the bank anymore. They can actually learn to make money as young as 3 and 4 years old and do an age-appropriate tasks, and they negotiate for what they're going to be doing. And then as they become 10, 11, 12, you stop telling them they have to do it because you're no longer their boss, and they can pretty much design an income. I mean, my kids have made thousands in a month. My kids have made as low as 500 in a month. But they don't come to me as a bank. We'll brainstorm how they can make money. And so then you get them not money hungry or money associated, but they have to realize that tasks, right, results make money, right? There's an association to how this all works. And I think a lot of the problems with COVID has done, it's divided our world, not just our nation. It's divided our world. So you have very different, I'd say, parenting, if at all. Some parenting doesn't even exist. And the challenge is where do you get the right information and where do you get the right guidance? And I think that the parents that have, money and have some status already, they're just handing things to their kids versus having them work for them and learn, responsibility and consequences. So a lot of it, as we really unfolded the book, Fabrizio, is parenting. I mean, parents really have to take this seriously and bring it into their household.
Yeah, I mean, financial education, as we all know, is something that's not taught in schools. And so, let's teach it, let's learn it ourselves, let's teach it at home to our kids so that when they go out there, they know how to do the money thing, which unfortunately a lot of people don't know how to do. Now, what about, this financial crisis we're going through at the moment, or those that so choose to participate may participate. I'm choosing not to participate, as I'm sure you aren't. What can someone do, to sort of make some more money, because the bills have increased, everything's increased in price. So I like your focus when you're not these type of guru people that go out there and teach people to budget. You go out there and teach people to figure out what their talents are and actually make more money to improve their lifestyle. So it's a creative more than destructive. We're saying, oh no, we have to spend less, we have to spend less, we have to spend less. No, don't spend less, make more. So tell us more about this.
Yeah, and actually do this year our schedule every 3 weeks, starting next on January 12th, and then every 3 weeks, February 2nd. I'm looking at the calendar, February 23rd. Yeah. Every 3 weeks for one day, we're going to do what's called the Millionaire Intensive in a Marketplace. So we're going to teach you what does it take to, just do what I call the basics of becoming a millionaire. And then, what's the context of it? What are you going to have to do to become a millionaire? Because everybody says they want to be one. Well, I give you really these are the things that you're going to be doing to become one. And it starts with making more money. Exactly like you said. We're not going to put people on a budget. And whether you choose to participate in all the political drama, the financial is at everybody's doorstep. Worldwide, we have huge inflation. We've in certain categories of real estate here in America, we're 100% more in interest rates. I mean, we went from 2s and 3s to 5s and 6s to 7s even in commercial real estate. So when you've got 100% interest rate increase, you've got a huge cash flow shift that has to happen, and the debt load and the carrying costs of all those properties. So what's going to come this year? It's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be huge opportunity for a lot of foreclosures in a foreclosure market that for America we've never seen before, which is going to be that mid-market where houses that really should have been sold at 300 and 400 surged immediately during COVID to 500 and 600. Those people, especially if they put a variable interest rate on it, they're not going to make it. They're going to have to foreclose or bring in some private financing to restructure their property, and the property's not worth it. So they're upside down for quite a while, if ever they'll walk out of some of that. So I think we're going to see a huge foreclosure surge in the mid-level market we've never seen before. So those with cash are going to capitalize well. I mean, as far as the investing side, that's probably that is going to happen. The market's still going to rock and roll. Crypto's still going to rock and roll. All that's going to be extremely, volatile. The good news about volatility across the world is it provides huge opportunities, as you know, like the aviation market. I'm going to get back into it for multiple reasons. But I love it as an asset class, quite frankly, and the depreciation in America is extraordinary. So
no, it's a good time. Now is a good time because this year prices are going to come down a little bit. There's going to be more to choose from compared to last year. And so it's a good time to get back in.
Yep, I would agree. I think the only variance you're going to have, again, is the interest rates. But aviation interest rates tend to stay a lot lower than what you see in the real estate markets and other markets when they go up to the degree they've gone up. So making more money is your answer to anything, right? I mean, everybody's got inflationary issues at their household level. And then, what I really teach in any of my work is all you have control of is your household. So you can be in this macro conversation on Telegram and all the, channels about what is and isn't happening. And when it really comes down to you and your family, it's what can you control in your household? And you can all contribute to making more money. And so this really, we give you scripts. We give you how do you talk to your kids? How do you bring conversation into your household? Whether it's my game, I have the Millionaire Maker game. I'll show you there. So that came on the heels of the cash flow game. I was the cash flow distributor for the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand for 5 years. But I always say, if you want to bring money into the household and you've never talked about money, what I find the easiest, because it also gets kids off of this, is play old traditional games. Like get your old Monopoly out, go get cash flow. Sharon Lecter's got Thrive Time. I have the Millionaire Maker. We've got a variety of games to choose from. Put them around a kitchen table and start talking about money. And start having conversations. The other thing that I've launched is a huge asset called, it's my YouTube channel. It's Loral Langemeier, the Millionaire Maker. So have your kids as young as 5 and 6. Listen, they're on YouTube all day long anyway. So have them have it be part of they'll never pay your kids an allowance. That as long as they're willing to listen, 10 minutes a day, 5 days a week or 3 days a week, then start asking questions. So what did you learn from Laurel's lesson today? Because I talk about debt, I talk about credit, I talk about credit cards, interest rates, I talk about all things money. And so at least what I'm inviting people to see is there's several assets that I have that you can lean into. And then it leads to a conversation that you can start having with your kids. The kids have got to understand money. Money, they're gonna deal with it from the minute they walk on the planet to the minute they walk off. And the schools aren't supposed to teach it. The school teachers don't know about money. That's not where this should be. It needs to be in your household.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a story like this. 3 of my kids got together a few weeks ago because there's this new trend now about this drink called Prime. And so one of my kids discovers that some of the supermarkets here locally were stocking them, but they would like open the supermarket 7 o'clock in the morning, 10 past 7, they're all gone. So they figured that they could buy them for like £2 and sell them for £15. So they get up early in the morning, they rush, but they're only allowed to buy like 3 per flavor. So they go in and then they discover this other place. So they end up filling the boot of the car with about 100 bottles of this Prime. And then they start talking to their friends, and their friends saying, I'll have 3 bottles, I'll have 2 bottles. Then they start selling one on eBay. So they basically quadrupled their money in the space of a week by selling this drink and taking advantage of an opportunity. And I'm like, what's in this thing? So I said, can I try one? And I tried. I said, this is nothing special, but people are just going crazy over this thing. And they're willing to pay £15 for something that my kids bought for £2.
Yep. But that's a perfect example of what we're talking about, is starting to leverage. You know, I have people who literally, especially the girls who love to put stuff online in Poshmark, all those online stores.
Oh yeah, and my daughter who's 14, she sold more than my boys.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, sell all your stuff. I mean, there's so much that's going on the internet. I mean, you can design jewelry. You can put yourself on, you know, what I call nanny and babysitting sites. You know, and you could do that as young as your teenage years. Any sort of the Facebook or Craigslist or whatever those are, you know, synonymous to in the UK or other parts of the world. You know, you can put up, whether it's handyman, raking leaves, you know, during the holiday season. I said, you know, put up and take down Christmas lights for people. Like a lot of older, you know, folks don't want to do any of that anymore. They want it. They just don't want to do the work. So there's tons of things that you can think about that you can bring in 20, 30, 40, 50 and, you know, bucks. And for kids, you know, it's not that difficult. They just have to get focused on what they really want to do. Tutoring is a huge one right now because schools, you know, dismantled so much of, you know, what the kids need. And so my kids, both of my kids have been tutoring for years, making a lot of money tutoring. And the thing I would say to all you parents and kids that do end up watching this is, even though you're younger, don't price yourself too much lower than the adult that has a common, you know, offering. So if you're just as good at tutoring math as somebody that's an adult and the adult's charging $75 or $50, then you charge that, or at least get close to it. Don't just charge the 10s and 15s because you're young. And I think a lot of young kids have
that happened to me. What you just said, Laurel, happened to me when I was I was 20, 21. I was living in Italy at the time. I wanted to be a pilot. I had my private pilot license. I needed to get my commercial pilot, so I needed all this extra money. So I went out teaching English as a foreign language. But, you know, I'd turn up, and obviously I'm 20, so I'm very young, even though I'd wear a suit. And I remember one top manager of this big company said to me, well, you're very young. Why should I pay you to teach me when I can get a 50-year-old lady with a master's degree in English and whatever? I said, look, sir, performance is what counts. So you come and have an hour lesson with me. It's going to cost you more than the 50-year-old lady, but you'll learn quicker with me. And if you don't believe me, here's some phone numbers of people that are having lessons with me. This is my price. Oh, you're more expensive. It's not about price. It's about performance. Tell me what you want to do. Some said yes, some said no. But, you know, in a year and a half, I had all the money I needed for my pilot training. Off I went on an airplane to Los Angeles to finish my licenses, and that was it. So it worked. So I just figured I had a way of doing things in a different way. So I priced myself because I knew I could deliver more value. I could deliver, because I use neurolinguistic programming to help Italian people acquire an English accent, and I would teach them in 1 hour. Their accent would change completely, and believe me, it lasts like 30 years. Because some of my students, I still speak to them now, and they still have an English accent when they speak speak English instead of an Italian accent. And I used NLP and I combined that with to teach English, and it worked a lot quicker. And that way, I could price myself more because I added more value. So that's another thing, something that I learned to do, and it worked.
Yep. So back to your original question, I mean, making money is clearly where you need to be focused this year, looking for different opportunities. In addition, I spoke of real estate. The other opportunities that are going to be happening, and this is again worldwide, are small and medium-sized businesses are getting pummeled because of this inflation, and they're having a harder time. I don't know how staffing is over there, but staffing here is still very, very rough to find. I mean, we've had ads out for people consistently since, you know, the government's continued to pay people to sit around and do nothing. So, you know, it's there's, so to speak of pricing, there's a very I say false pricing that is going on of what people expect and then what they're willing to do for the money. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But these small and medium-sized businesses are going to get, they're either going to figure out a way and find their niche to hang on, or they're going to go down. And that's a perfect time to be like in your, market, it's called Dragon's Den. In our market, it's, Shark Tank. There are so many opportunities in your neighborhood, like coffee shops to small, like hair salons, nail salons. There's just so much that you're going to be able to contribute to and be a shark if you're in the right financial situation, which is cash. And if you're sitting out there saying, well, I don't have any cash, go make some. I mean, everyone needs help, and everyone's got, for sale. Or so
let's talk about the small business. Let's talk about, I mean, I'll give you an example. Here where I live in this small town in the UK, I've noticed over the last 2-3 years, there's lots of new barber shops that have appeared out of nowhere. And I attribute that to the fact that more men are growing beards than they used to. And so these beards need some care. But with all these barber shops competing with each other, if a barbershop guy is watching this podcast or listening, what can they do to make more money? What can they do to be more competitive than the barber shop across the road?
Oh, love that question. So, and again, I'm going to call them distinctions. So the distinctions, clearly in quality and value, like and a great example is what you just gave. I mean, focus on beards and then sell all the product and have yourself an affiliate relationship or sponsor relationship with the affiliated, product line. So you're not just selling the service of the beard trim, you're selling the product, you're selling all the accessories or equipment or, razors or things that have to go with it for them to do any home care when they get home. The more you provide to someone, the other thing I've seen at barbershops is some men or women are starting to also include facials. So while they're doing, say, their beard and hair, they'll do a quick facial. They'll do, eyelash extenders. They'll just start adding additional services. So the more you can offer one client and make more out of one client. So say traditionally you're going to make, 30, 40. And again, I'm using dollars, using pounds, but everyone get the principle of it. But, instead of just getting, say, 30, 40, 50 bucks out of one person, how do you get 100 out of that same person by providing more distinctions, more offers? And it's just convenient because they get one-stop shopping instead of having to go, to multiple places for the same thing, for the care. So just provide more.
Give more value to your clients. Yeah. Okay.
If say the barbershop needs some capital, I mean, if I'm out there wanting to Shark Tank, I mean, what I do a lot of is I do more hard money lending. Like I would rather support them in a debt position and then give them some additional, coaching and structure and strategy on how to turn the business around and then have them pay me back a very nice interest rate. So, because if it's an equity move, you either have to get bought out, you can partner in. And again, Dragon's Den, Shark Tank tend to like equity more. I like debt more because debt actually trumps every position. Debt's a more senior position. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you'll make your money back, but also the guy that's lending the money from you, that's borrowing the money from you, will, at least they know you're not taking 25% of their company, that you're helping them to build their business, but they still own the 100% of the business. And that it's a win-win across the board. It makes perfect sense. So tell us more about, in your book, of course, you've got people now making a ton of money, and you see that a lot of wealth, after the second generation, it disappears. So tell us a bit more about that, because I know you cover that in your book, this wealth transfer. So how can you guarantee that when you transfer your wealth to your kids, that they're not going to blow it, but they're going to multiply it?
Well, worldwide, you need through trust, through trust and very specific legal documents per country. Most countries, it's a trust, and through the trust, you give a lot of guidance. There's a variety of kinds of trust. So I really specialize in helping people, and we have a whole legal team across, really all of North America, that can help you decide what's the best trust. So some of like big family office trusts, they're called non-depletion trusts, where you actually get to write a business plan. You can loan against the money that's in there, but you don't get to ever deplete it. So it's just not dispersed to the kids. In mine, they have to be financially and business literate, savvy, have to be contributing before they're going to get any, and they don't get anything till 45 anyway. There's also provisions for, kind of protecting if one of your kids or you end up divorced. I mean, does it all get dispersed? So I do a lot of detail of how do you protect your family's wealth, and then the requirements again. But if you don't raise kids that have responsibility, consequence in their life, they're just going to be expected to be trust fund babies. And the reason we actually titled the book "Make Your Kids Millionaires" is because it's the fourth of my series. But really, this kind of presumes that my kids are going to be trust fund babies. They're not. They have huge requirements to how to acquire and how to have any of it. They don't just get it. And there's a lot of financial literacy. So I think a lot of it's the training of the family. I don't think so. I know so. And it's the family making this business and money conversation serious, that it does last. And the statistic worldwide is 2.3 generations. So that would mean that my grandkids would blow it all by then, which that's not going to happen.
I remember reading a book a few years ago called Family Fortunes. And the guy in there said exactly what you said about the generational wealth. But he also said another thing that's important with kids, as well as teaching them the value of money, and that is teach them how to choose their spouse. In particular, the boys more than the girls, because the boys will marry a lady, and that lady will be spending more time with their kids than they do. So if they don't have this prosperity mindset, then their kids aren't going to have and that's how the generational wealth disappears. So be very mindful on who your boys marry, and make sure that those ladies that they marry have a certain type of mindset towards money, because that way the money will be multiplied and it won't be blown. And I found that, that's a clever piece of advice there. Because how many people have I seen, friends of mine that, had these goals and this, and then they get married and suddenly they go in a different direction. And you're like, well, what happened to your dream of, my wife? Okay.
I'm going to say, or my husband,
Yeah. I mean, it's either way. I mean, we're here. We're here to become better. And it's important for us all to grow, and money's just part of it. And I think that's really important.
It is. I'm going to share with you, like Tom Ziglar was a big part of our generation. We had a generational wealth conference that was on the heels of our books. When we did our book launch, we offered a generational wealth conference. So we had that. It's now becoming a course. So that'll be available for folks. But we really talk about how do you build this generational wealth, and how do you build a legacy. And Tom Ziglar said it best around the Ziglar legacy is, the inheritance and the will is like, that's the money stuff, right? Which is a very critical part of it. The pour over will and the trust. But the legacy are the values, the character that you build within those kids as you parent those kids. It's not just some pixie dust at the end of their life. Hey, I'm checking out, right? My expiry date's coming up. And now you get all the stuff. It's like, no, their whole life, they should have been groomed. Like when my son, and one of the things that I know is distinctively different, and I share really candidly in the book, is when my son turned 18, he got his first company. And worldwide, 18 is an adult age. So anyone can live corporate life. So instead of making your money into your personal bank account, making your money into a corporate bank account gives you tax strategies worldwide that are superior. So when he just finished playing football for 5 years, and now he's actually going to DC on a congressional internship. But when we travel and visit, like he'll be coming back, we're going to be meeting and actually doing an event together, and then he'll be coming back. I'm not just traveling with my son, I'm traveling with my business partner, which makes it a deduction. And we don't go on vacations. Wealthy people don't go on vacations, we go on business trips. And there's a lot of distinctions on how we live that people hear about, but they don't do it. And so this is really a how-to book. How do you put this in your behavioral life so you pay bills differently even? Like who should pay for this? Like Loral Langemeier, don't have a phone. I don't have any phone. No, my companies own my phone. My companies own my vehicles. My companies own most of my life. I don't own anything. So when you set your whole family up and they start living that way, and even if you send them into the store to go buy something, they know to bring the receipt out because that's part of their business expenses. That's just a way of living that I don't think you surprise kids with at 18. They've got to be grown into this, and really the behaviors you got to model as parents.
That's so true. So true. I mean, I've taught my kids that. My 22-year-old, he's got his own business. My son, who's 17, turning 18 in a few days, he's already started a jewelry business. So he's buying parts of jewelry from China, and he's putting it in these fancy boxes and putting them on these websites and making 5 times his money. So he's just quit his job today because now he's got enough money stashed away to buy stuff and market it and sell it. And now he's going to start doing the nomad capitalist kind of thing online, nomad businessman. And we'll see how far I get. But I said to him, and he said to me, he said, "Yeah, Dad, I just want to build some money and then start buying real estate." I said, "Yeah, that's the way to go." And if you find a couple of ways of doing it and accumulate the money for a down payment on a house, but don't go and live in the house, put a down payment on the house and stick 2 tenants in it that pay you the rent and cover the mortgage.
Yep.
You can still stay at home for a few more years and just buy 1, 2, 3 properties until you've got enough cash flow to afford to go and rent yourself a nice big house.
Well, and the other thing too that I'm telling a lot of the kids, I'm doing a lot of student athlete training, and even with my son, I said, if you and you say your fiance, well, girlfriend now, soon to be fiance, get married or even living together, buy a duplex, live in one side where you have a tenant paying you rent. And even if you have to move back and forth while you fix it up, or buy a fourplex. And then if you move on to another town, buy another duplex or fourplex or duplex or fourplex. So now you're accumulating doors for, like you said, that last big final house, or, a family house, because as a single or even couple, they don't really need a huge home. I don't believe that. I didn't have a home until I had a family. I did doors. I accumulated lots of doors during my 20s and early 30s, which also has made me a millionaire, buying real estate that way.
Yeah. Okay. So Loral, thank you so much for your insight and your book. We'll put the links to your website and your podcast as well. In closing, just tell us briefly about your podcast you're doing so people can tune in and subscribe to that too.
Absolutely. So again, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Loral Langemeier, the Millionaire Maker. I'm going to give you 2 free tickets to my event. If you go to loral.club, so LORAL.club, you're going to get 2 tickets to my event. We do it every 3 weeks, and you can make it in UK time. I promise. It's going to go late into your night, but you still can make it. We have a lot of people from the UK that attend. And my podcast is Loral's Real Money Talks. So again, my name's spelled LORAL. Real Money Talks podcast, and it's everything money. And in fact, I'm going to be having you as a guest very shortly. And so join us and join the interviews with a lot of amazing people and just how they make money. I think it's fascinating. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah. Loral, thank you very much. Those of you that haven't subscribed yet to Quantum Action Podcast, subscribe to the podcast. We're here to take you to infinity and beyond. And Loral's just give us a bit of insight here to how to take our money to infinity and beyond. Thank you, everybody. Subscribe. See you on the next one.